never forget.
There's no secret, I love guns, but my first love was supercars. The way they sound, the speed, and the looks were, are, and will forever be simply seductive to me. Today I share the same passion for guns that I have for supercars. So it should be no surprise that when it came time to customize my own gun, much of the design language was inspired by a supercar. What happens when you take the alluring elements of lunacy and force them to procreate with elements of sensibility? You get the Lamborghini Huracan Spider. The Huracan is more alluring than it is beautiful. The Huracan's aesthetics scream, I'm trying to seduce you, and you will be seduced, even if you don't want to be. Its looks aren't for everyone, but no one can deny its presence. Its speed is savage, and the noise, oh sweet baby Jesus of Nazareth, the noise it makes puts the sirens of Odyssey to shame. Withstanding all of this, it's one of the most drivable cars I've ever driven, yet it still maintains all of the sensorial viciousness that you expect from a supercar. When it came time to design the gun I would come to call the Advocate, I knew that if I couldn't recreate the aforementioned supercar experience in gun form, at least, if not just a little, it would have the smell of the awesomeness that is the Huracan. I haven't exactly been quiet about my love affair with the VP9, so starting with the VP9 as the tactical canvas for the Advocate shouldn't surprise anyone. Window cuts on a gun are always a polarizing feature. The purists of the gun world feel window cuts are blasphemous. However, I disagree. Visually, window cuts make a gun look more striking. Think of window cuts as tactical cleavage, giving you a visual tease of what's underneath the surface, while still leaving enough to the imagination to make you want more. There's also the added benefit of making the gun lighter in weight. The window cuts also allow the slide to track faster, which modifies the character of the felt recoil and reduces muzzle rise. I was always a fan of the window cuts on compensated Glocks like the Glock 19C. They felt natural while also distinguishing itself from other Glocks. So I put them on the Advocate, except I made the windows slightly longer and added 2 more windows on each side of the gun, giving it a slightly more aggressive look. I also removed the portion of the front serrations. I wanted the windows to be the star of the show, and the stock serrations were flirting with making the slide too busy. Functionally, removing the front serrations incentivizes me to press check my gun from the rear instead of the front where it's something went wrong. I'm not staring at a hole in my hand. I also included a cutout for a Trijicon RMR, but if you're like me and have a fleeting love-hate relationship with red dots on your handgun, the Advocate comes with a Type 3 hard anodized plate that will sit flush on top of the gun. Satin black. That's the color of the imaginary Huracan that I own in my mind. The Advocate comes finished in diamond-like carbon, which is more wear resistant than the factory finish, and also a coating which I feel best mirrors the satin black color of my imaginary Huracan. Not to mention, I'm just generally obsessed with the color black. However, whether we admit it or not, we all have a tactical mini-me inside of us. Because of this, the Advocate will also be offered in a custom-made and mixed noir urban camo Cerakote. This is a blend of 3 colors which are custom mixed and selected by me and made possible by the Tier Defense Industries build team. One thing that stuck out the most to me inside the Huracan was the glorious miles of leather inside the cabin. When you hear supercar, you don't think plush, you think functional aggression through and through, but the Huracan is a balance of aggressive styling, approachable hyper performance, and dare I say, comfort and luxury. Hence the excessive use of leather. I wanted to execute the same balance with the grip texture of the Advocate. The framework on the Advocate was a collaboration with MLS Customs. Visually, the stippling looks like what leather would look like under a microscope, and the border work is as crisp as Steve Harvey's Edge Up, before we found out it was fake. However, in hand, The texture is grippy without being scratchy. When concealed against my body, I'm not worried about it scratching up my skin. I love driving sports cars with manual transmissions. With a manual, you're in complete control of what the car does, which in turn makes the experience more organic. However, functionally, the 7-speed dual-clutch gearbox in the Huracan is simply faster. The speed at which I changed gears with just the flick of a paddle left me a little giddy. I look at the trigger of the gun the same way I view the paddle shifters in the Huracan. The stock trigger on the VP9 is damn good. So good, in fact, the only reason I wanted to change it was for looks and feel. If I could change the trigger visually and still have the same stock VP9 trigger pull, that was a win in my book. The beautiful thing is, I more than won with this trigger because it's better than the stock trigger in not only looks, but also feel and function. It's cleaner and has a more definitive wall, a shorter length of pull, and it being made from aluminum adds an overall feel of quality to the gun. It always amazed me how something as small as the color of brake calipers can change the overall look of a car. Some people love red brake calipers, some people love yellow brake calipers. I've always been a fan of the blacked out look. Because of the window cuts, the barrel color, much like the color of the calipers on the Huracan, can dramatically change the look of the Advocate. I couldn't decide which I like better between the fluted DLC coated threaded barrel and the fluted nickel boron flush barrel. So, the Advocate comes with both. I wanted the owner to feel like they were getting two guns in one, while also being able to run the Advocate suppressed if they wanted to. Changing barrels on a gun is a lot easier than changing brake calipers on a car, so going with both barrels just made sense to me. There's nothing more annoying than having iron sights that don't sit higher than the RMR or suppressor. So with the Advocate, I decided to have the gun come not only with stock sights, but suppressor height sights. Or if you want to run the gun slick, you can option for standard height fiber optic sights. I always felt typical gun boxes were quirky looking, like you were carrying a lunchbox filled with last night's leftovers instead of a gun. I wanted something more substantial, something that made you feel like you were carrying a nuclear launch codes and should have the case handcuffed to your wrist. As a result, the Advocate comes in a TSA-approved, airtight, watertight, injection-molded, hard-sided case with a dust-proof O-ring seal and automatic pressure relief valve. Inside is a high-density foam cut to precision for the Advocate, a spare magazine, second barrel, and a general-purpose cutout for any other ancillary items. The case is finished off with a laser-engraved stainless steel CN logo plate. At a price of well over $200,000, the Huracan is prohibitively expensive. I was only lucky enough to spend a day with it, but if I could recreate the experience I had with the Huracan, or just the smell of that experience, in tactical form with the Advocate for $2,495, I don't think I could ask for more. I don't hide the fact that I want everything about this gun to feel special, from the carrying case to the way your index finger feels on the aluminum trigger. I want the Advocate to evoke every sense involved in owning and shooting a firearm, and I feel confident that I've done that with the Advocate. What's going on, folks? This is Colion Noir. If you like what you saw in this video, be sure to hit the subscribe button that should be located on the bottom left portion of the screen. I mean, come on, who you fooling? I know you want to.